house, go expect like some security that you can then manage your life a bit more. There's less risk. Whereas if you say less risk versus I can't find a wage salary job, then I'll buy a hot dog stand. I'll stand in like a street corner in London and hope that people buy my hot dogs and hope that it's enough to pay my rent. Whereas here, if someone says I'll pay you at the end of the month an X amount based on our agreement, I'm excluding like commission-based work. But let's say this is a fixed amount each month, and you can expect it. You are secure in the knowledge that you can expect it.
Yes, so the reason I would say that would be like similar to something like slavery is that it doesn't really matter like what conditions you accepted when you went into that contract. At the end of the day, you were working pretty much for the business, and the thing. So the amount that you get out of that business is not a direct comparison to what you put into it. So you're basically, at least partially, working for free, which I would consider to be slavery.
So I'm a little bit disappointed because I would consider slavery to be you're forced to work, and when I mean forced, I mean physically.
Yeah, so you could say that people in modern day are forced to work. I don't believe there is a single culture in Earth, except for maybe some socialist countries, that do not have a society that forces people to work.
I don't think anyone is forced to work. I think you can choose not to work.
I mean, you could just load off your parents and live your whole life and just have your parents pay for everything. But in most cases, you will have to work to live. Therefore, you are forced to work.
Sorry. Let me reiterate what I mean by force. So I mean, slaves, I would associate someone in shackles and like a neck brace in shackles and like a ball and chain tied to their ankle, forced physically, not like emotionally or psychologically, physically forced to work. They don't have a choice. The owner dictates everything what they can do in their lives. They're basically chattel.
Yeah, but exactly,
and that's the definition of slavery.
Yeah, I don't believe most people, like 90% of people, like I believe those people are forced to work.
So you do or you do not?
I do believe that 90% of people are forced to work. There are not many people at all that are able to live their lives not working absolutely. They need to work, otherwise they will not have any money to live. That is forced work.
Let me present a situation. You tell me if you see force in this situation, okay?
Yep.
I need someone to help me in my shoe factory. I'm doing rather well, but I can't keep up with the work. I need a worker to help me offload some of the work. Find the worker. I put an ad somewhere. I said I need a worker to do some manual labor in my shoe factory. Nothing skilled. I'll teach you what needs to. And whoever comes, I'll evaluate them. I'll pick one and I'll offer them the opportunity of working for me. Have I used force on anyone?
Have you used? Sorry, what?
Have I used force on anyone?
No.
Okay, so isn't that fundamental to the argument here? That slavery is force, and I'm not forcing. I'm giving the opportunity to someone. If they want it or not, if they don't want it, I have no problem. If they do want it, I'm happy to offer it.
Yes, I would say no, because it's not just about it's not just about you, about the whole entire situation. So we have a government that, along with your plans, like say this person says no to working for you, they would have to work for someone else to be able to live. I would say that is basically slavery, because they are forced to work to live.
So what do you mean they have to work? They have to work to live. In what sense do you mean that?
So they need to work to be able to buy food, to be able to eat, to live, or be able to pay for their rent, to live in an apartment.
Yeah, they would need to, provide
Yeah,
value to the market to be able to
yeah.
pay
So
for those things.
so
Sure,
basically, they are forced to work to live. I would call that slavery because someone is forced into some
right? You
sort
keep
of labor.
can I just stop you for
I, so
when you
sorry.
say forced, you need to say physically forced. Who is physically forcing anyone?
I don't think someone
What would
needs
be
to
the
be
difference?
physically.
What would
I
be
do
the
not believe someone needs to be physically forced into someone for it to be slavery.
what would be the
You,
difference in me changing what you said they get to work? Why if I, for example, just semantically change they get to work so they can have a nice apartment in the city and they get all these opportunities, what will be the difference semantically from saying that? It's just a change of words, but it's the same activity.
yeah, semantically, it would be the same thing.
Well, then it's not
But in
false.
reality, yeah, but in reality, it
Yeah.
would be a whole bunch of people who will be having to do something regardless of what they would want to just to live.
So you're
I do
saying
not I do not believe that people should be forced to do something regardless of what they want to do just to live in society. I do not believe that should be the case.
okay, so for example, let's say you wanting to eat. Am I forcing you to eat? Or am I in a system that forces you to eat? I'm
No.
assuming you have to eat, right?
Yeah.
And you have to drink water.
Yep.
Is that me as the employer of the shoe factory? Is that my fault that you have to do those things?
No.
Okay, so when you say you're
Yeah.
forced to eat and drink,
Yeah.
who is forcing you?
Yeah. So I'm not putting blame on
No,
the
but who is
company.
forcing you?
No one is forcing you to.
No, some element is forcing you to eat and drink. Who is that? What is that?
Like hunger and thirst.
So nature.
Yeah.
All living things in nature need food and water and shelter. Let's say, yeah.
Yeah.
Is nature oppressing you and forcing you to do stuff?
Like sort of, yeah.
Okay. So, but me offering you an opportunity to work that you can then take and buy nice things and get to see a movie and go to a restaurant. That's me putting force on you, or you getting the opportunity to work for me. Because I don't
So
have to offer it to you. You don't have to accept it. I'm not
so
forcing you to accept it by any means.
so if your offer was the only offer I could take, then yes, that would be forcing it.
So it's not the only offer I can take. It's not the offer you have. You have either my offer or living a very meager existence, and I'm giving you the opportunity to live a much better existence. So isn't that a
Okay,
nice thing?
okay, so there would be the offer of either working for you
Yeah.
and having some sort of life where I would work for all my positions, or I
No, no,
would
no.
die.
So you dying or not has nothing to do with me. You eating or drinking has
Yeah.
I didn't force you to do those things. Do you
Okay.
understand?
Yeah, I understand, but my point is that
Yeah.
I have to concede to you and I work for you, otherwise I die. That isn't a choice.
Okay.
Do
So
do
I
you understand how that isn't a choice?
I don't think that's true. I think that's a false choice what you're presenting. I think you have many opportunities to live without working. Or at the very least, sorry, not live without working. You have many opportunities of living without working for an employer.
So in modern day, the only choices you have is
Yeah.
working for an employer, literally going out into the wilderness, or dying. That is the only choices you
So
have.
you're giving me a choice.
That is the only choices you have.
So we're backtracking from otherwise I
Okay,
will die. We have an additional
okay,
choice now.
okay. So there is a difference between, so you have choices. Like obviously, you could just die instead of like working, but when we
No,
actually
I'm not
look,
saying dying. I'm not.
yeah,
I'm saying
okay,
between dying and working.
okay. So when we actually look at what people would choose, like
Hmm.
obviously people won't choose to die. So when people give someone a chance to either work or die, you are pretty much forcing them into work because they are obviously not going to pick die.
But you just gave me another choice.
Like go into the wilderness, that's not a
You can
choice
have
either. Because
that is so.
99% of people will
Yeah.
not be choosing go into the
So
wilderness.
so
So
what did
they will be choosing work.
why
So
did
you are forcing them
I
into
understand?
work.
I understand.
Yep.
I understand. So what was there before there was a society to work? What did people do?
Could I ask why this matters?
Sorry, say again.
Could I ask why this matters?
How did people survive before capitalism?
Yeah, can I ask why this matters?
I'm presenting a list of choices.
I like before capitalism,
Yeah, before
we had
capitalism.
feudalism.
So let's say you didn't have the option of employment, and let's say there isn't any city or town next to you in the far many miles away, and there's no transportation. How did people live?
They would try to hunt for food.
Hunt for food, subsistence farming. They could try, grow stuff in like a plot of land.
Yeah.
And people, when we started getting more industrialized, people chose to not live subsistence farming because it was a pretty meager existence. It was you sometimes died of lack of food. Your children had to start working at the age of 8 on the farm with you because you really needed them to. And people started migrating to the city where there was factory jobs because it was much more convenient. They had the opportunity to, and they were able to get some money and improve the quality of their lives. Now we're in a situation here where our lives are greatly improved by society, and you can always revert back to pre-capitalism stages if you choose not to participate in society. And let's be honest, in society, what does that mean? It's basically people. The idea of capitalism is you provide value to other people on the market. They say, oh, I like this value, and they give you value back in the form of money, let's say. And then you can take that value and buy a cinema ticket, go to the movies, buy a nice car, so on and so forth. So we have a situation where this sort of dynamic allows us not to do subsistence farming, and in some cases even enjoy ourselves. So
Yeah.
nothing here is forced. This is a better option than what was before pre-capitalism, but it's definitely not forced. You are not a slave. Someone doesn't dictate to you what you do 24 hours a day, where you sleep, gives you food, puts shackles on you. This is the definition of slavery. You're using the definition of
Okay,
slavery
but
completely
someone
wrong.
has to farm, right?
Sorry?
But someone has to farm, right?
Someone has to farm that?
Someone has to farm, right?
Someone has to farm to make
Yeah.
food so they can live? Subsistence
So
farming, yes.
in that situation you just provided, like
Yeah.
regardless of what happens, someone has to be farming, right?
It's one of the better options, I would say, at the time.
Well, it doesn't matter. Doesn't really matter if the better option. The fact is that people are forced into it.
So you're saying nature oppresses you? Because the farm is
Like
it's owned by yourself. You are the owner of the farm.
I don't know why you keep on saying nature oppresses you. The point is that when we have these systems in place, inevitably there are going to be people who will be put into slavery.
No one is put like give me an example who's put into slavery.
Okay, so when we
The
have a
proper definition.
okay, so when we have a system like this, when a lot of people have like in capitalism, when people have like systems in place that people buy into, inevitably there will be someone at the bottom that will have to do these jobs like farming or like low level construction or something like that. Inevitably there will be people who will be forced into these jobs because they have no other way of sustaining themselves.
Okay.
I
So
would
you're
call that I would call that slavery because they are forced into those positions. They have to do those positions or they will die.
well
That
I
is
call bull
slavery.
I call bullshit on that, and I'll explain why.
Yep.
These people are don't have a lot of options. Yeah, well, admittedly, or all their options, or they do have options, but they can be much worse. And they get the opportunity or the single opportunity of working someplace so they can earn some money. That is by all definition an opportunity.
But isn't that kind of
Once
proving
I'm
the
not
point?
finished, and I'm not finished. And once they get that opportunity, they can improve those skills. They can climb the ladder. They can have more than one options to choose from, and they can improve the quality of life. And they can choose either a work that pays more, or they could choose a work that pays less but they enjoy it more. They have more than one options, and especially in a society that embraces capitalism, they'll have more than one options, or ideally, employers will be competing over people to join their company, and then they will have more than one choice.
Okay, so you're basically saying that slaves will eventually be able to pick a better option.
No, I disagree completely. I think you're just being hyperbolic now. I think you're trolling me now.
No. So you're basically talking about how someone who was forced into a position of forced labor would eventually be able to get into a position where they will be able to choose their options, right?
Well, let's put it this way, right? Let's say
No.
let's
So
say
that
10,
was that. That
I'll,
was
I'll,
what
take,
you were
I'll,
saying.
I'll take your argument. Yeah, let's say this.
That was what you were saying.
Let's say one person only has one opportunity of getting a job. Yeah, that's your point, correct?
Yeah.
And let's say that one job has 10 people competing for it. Okay?
Yeah.
And let's say that person was not able to get the opportunity to get that job. What should they do?
I mean, like, our government should provide for those people.
No, there isn't government. Let's pretend there isn't. What should they do? They didn't find any opportunity. Nothing was available. It was all taken. Zero.
Yeah, they should like try to figure out some other way to provide for themselves. Yeah.
Okay, throw some ideas.
So you're saying people who can't be slaves should just like go and provide for themselves? Like I don't understand what you're saying.
So again, you're using slaves in a hyperbolic way. I'm saying people who can't
I'm
find
not.
any work should find ways of either providing value to other people in society to then get paid from it. Like, for example, I gave the example of the hot dog stand. I don't have an employer. I purchased a hot dog stand. I purchased the hot dog. I went to London. I stood on the street, and I'm hoping people will buy my hot dogs.
Yeah, so I'd say someone who is walking around the streets trying to find someone to like to give them work. Like I would say that person is pretty much a slave.
No one owes you work. No one owes you anything. You're not a slave. No one owes you anything. You're asking people to give you opportunities.
So what else are you supposed to do if you're in that position?
It's your problem. It is literally your problem. You need to figure out how to provide value to society.
No, it doesn't matter whose problem it is. What would you do?
Yeah. What can they do? A million things.
The only thing they can do is work for whoever gives them work. That is
that is
slavery.
Literally not the only thing they can do.
That is the only thing they can do.
I literally gave you. You gave me an example. I gave you an
example.
example. I can give you a ton of examples.
You have not given me an example of what someone else can do.
So I said, open a hot dog stand. You said, go to the wilderness. You can go. You can find a plot of land in somewhere and do subsistence farming. Whoa. You can find a plot of land. You can do subsistence farming. You can join a commune. There's a list. There's a registry of communes. You can just take your bag, go there.
So
you won't be able to ask to work. Sorry.
So someone can't just open a hot dog stand.
Of course they can.
They can't. As well as someone can't just plant some fucking land and then imaginarily become a fucking farmer. That is not how it works.
What do you mean? Why can't someone open a hot dog stand?
Okay, for one, like a lot of the time, that relies on actually having some sort of capital.
Some sort of?
Yeah, some sort of capital, which a homeless person or a slave wouldn't have.
Second of all, you're just trolling me now. I can't take this seriously now. Okay, go on.
Wait, why? How would a slave have capital?
I don't know how a slave would not have any private property of their own.
Okay, so what are you complaining about?
A slave would have zero private property ever, even if they work.
Yes. So what are you complaining about?
That you're using slavery in a hyperbolic way.
I'm not.
You You're trolling me.
I'm not.
Then I don't know.
Okay,
It's definitely
so
comical at this stage.
I'm not.
Because
Okay, so
I define. Okay, so what part of my definitions? Well, there is no. We agree. Let's see what we agree on. Okay, we agree that people aren't forced to work. Like
people
from the
are for
from the
no,
employer point
no.
of view. For the employer
People
point of
are
view,
forced to work.
let me repeat myself. From the employer point of view, the employer isn't shackling the people and physically forcing or coercing them to work. They're not working at threat of going to prison.
Most of the time, yeah.
No. So again, you're being hyperbolic.
I'm not being
And this is why
hyperbolic.
I can't take this conversation seriously. So no one is literally putting chains on people and saying you must work. You're saying because nature oppresses you and you need to eat and drink, therefore the capitalist is enslaving you, which is nonsense. It's basically nonsense. And I can easily
No,
say
I'm.
I can just change your words and say
Well,
you have the opportunity of
if you'll
working.
let me talk.
You
Well, if you'll let me
once I
talk.
finish you can talk. I could
Oh,
easily
you're
change
talking
the word you're saying.
behind.
I can easily change the things you're saying and saying you get to work, you have the opportunity to work instead of slavery. You will be the same result.
Okay, so I would say that someone who has absolutely no other options, who gets an opportunity to work, is basically forced to work because that is their only option. So
Okay,
if
then
someone is, can you let me finish? So if
sure. Go ahead.
someone is specifically going towards those people and giving those people opportunities to work, I would say yes, they are absolutely at fault for entrapping and like making people slaves when they are giving opportunities to work to people who have absolutely no other opportunities.
Okay.
That is absolutely making slaves.
Okay, and I would say that these employers are giving people the best choice for them, and those people are choosing the best choice for themselves and voluntarily entering into an agreement to work for someone.
Yeah, I never said like being a slave wasn't the best choice for them.
Well, then then the element of force and coercion. You can't. So the element of force is eliminated when someone voluntarily does something. There's no coercion. It's not like. It's not like.
They don't voluntarily become slaves. No, no one voluntarily becomes a slave.
Okay, I'll take any question from the audience if anyone wants. I'll look at the debate chat. Sorry.
Okay, I guess we're calling the debate there. And just echoing, does anybody have any questions for the debaters? I can unmute you, or you can just pop something in debate chat and I can read it out. So we'll just give it a minute.
Well, so I guess if no one has, I guess I'll just summarize. So I think this is a semantic game, in a sense. It's just a way of it's just a lens of viewing the situation. But the facts are that when someone enters into voluntary agreement, that is not force, that is not coercion. No one's forcing you to work. In fact, you could say you're competing with other people to find good opportunities to work, and we need more people to offer more opportunities and to get to a stage where people have options to choose employers and employers compete for workers. And I don't see voluntary agreements as force or coercion or slavery, and I think it's hyperbolic. And I would add, just to some degree, a perverted way of looking at the situation. And instead of wage slavery, I would call it wage security. But Riven, you can give your parting words.
Yeah, so I would say that any sort of situation where the only option you have to give someone is to work for you for a wage that doesn't even cover their living, that would be a situation where you are not giving them any sort of realistic like human rights. So whenever you give someone wages that do not allow them to pay for their own health insurance, like somewhere in America, I would say that is a form of slavery because you're literally making them work despite the fact that they do not have their whole entire life being given to them.
So I would say, just because it's a new point we didn't discuss,
Right.
with
I
regards
did
to
discuss that.
sorry, the point of not enough to be able to. I would say that if you voluntarily enter into a agreement, then it is
You're
the
forced
best
to.
that if you there isn't that force voluntary and
It's
force are
forced.
okay. Wait, voluntarily and force are opposites. But yeah, so if you voluntarily enter an agreement, it is the best one you could find at the time. If it doesn't cover things like your living expenses, I suggest to either not take it or to reduce your living expenses, because at this point in time in your life, you're unable to find any better opportunities.
Yeah,
I
do not
would
care
suggest
about.
to work on it to improve your skill sets and find better opportunities down the road.
Yeah, I do not care about volunteering, because what we're talking
It's
about is
important.
forced. No, what we're talking about is forced labor, because people who are in these positions do not have the option to say no. They have to say yes to these horrible positions that these companies give to them.
So
That is not that is not an option. They are forced to say yes to these pretty much slavery positions where they are not given enough money to literally live their lives. That is slavery.
So you've already agreed that it is not their only option; it is their best option.
No, it is their only option.
We've already discussed options,
Yeah,
and there
it is
are
their
other
only
options.
option. It is
No,
their only option.
there's no other. So you're walking back on something you already agreed on in this conversation,
I never agreed that there was an other option.
right? So if I present other options now, and that means that taking a job isn't their only option; it's their best option.
If there was some other options that
Yeah.
they were perfectly able to agree with, then yes.
So perfectly able to agree with is not the point, because they would take the
No,
best
that is
options
the
for
point.
themselves. Sorry.
They
So if
should
you
they
so
they
if
they,
so
they
basically
should
sorry.
be
So let
held.
me allow me to
No,
summarize what you're.
wait.
Allow me to summarize
I'll
your
I'll
point.
just say one thing. I'll just say one thing. They should be able to choose what their position is.
They should be able to choose what they work at. Otherwise, it's slavery.
What their position is, yes.
So if they don't get the option to choose what they want to do, and I assume how much they get paid for it, but I'm not entirely sure. But if they don't get that option, then it is slavery.
Yes.
And if that option isn't available, then what?
What do you mean then what?
If the thing they want to do isn't currently available, no one is offering the thing that they want to do.
Then they get forced into slavery.
So they go to the pit to hit stones while being shackled.
They get forced into some sort of labor, yeah.
Well, give me an example of slavery then.
Okay, well, we can talk about over in the America, where waiters and waitresses are forced to pretty much beg for tips, because the minimum wage over there for waiters and waitresses is about $2.50 or something. They need to literally beg for tips
Okay, and how much?
just to live their lives. I would
So,
say that is a form of slavery, because they have no other option. They need to do that, otherwise they will literally not be able to live their lives. They will starve.
okay, so I'm having a little bit of a time understanding where you're ending your sentence, because you have these long pauses. So I apologize.
Yeah, that's
So
all good. That's good.
how much do waiters and waitresses typically earn, and what is their living expenses?
No
Typically.
idea.
So would you say that do they earn less than their living expenses?
No idea.
Well, can we assume that they earn more, so they otherwise it will be difficult to keep up the lifestyle?
I don't know why you would assume they earn more.
Can we assume more that they earn more money as waiters and waitresses than their living expenses?
Yeah, otherwise they would starve, so yeah.
Okay, so obviously they're able to make ends meet, and they're able to
So
live, and it's not ideal, but It's not something you
Yes.
need to do for the rest of your life.
Yeah, so someone living doesn't mean that their situation is okay.
Okay, so let me ask you. If you're a teenager starting off your career, how do you get to a position where you are able to choose what you work at?
There's a lot of aspects that go into that. I don't see how this
Roughly,
is.
roughly, in principle, not.
I mean, I mean, a lot of that goes into like whether or not you finish school.
Sorry,
A lot of that goes into whether or not you finish school,
high school.
like any sort of school.
Well, let's say you didn't finish school. What and you
Like
want
if you don't
to?
finish school, then you kind of fucked. Yeah. Like
Yeah, I mean, it's
you could go
your
into the
disadvantage to
military,
you can you can go to the
but that's
military.
it.
Yeah. Sorry.
Like there is a military, but there isn't much else.
And you've been apprentice somewhere.
It's pretty hard to get an apprenticeship if you haven't finished school.
Is it?
Yeah.
They don't give that out to.
So I don't know exactly how it works in America, but one of the easiest ways to get an apprenticeship is through schooling over here in Australia. So
Okay.
yeah, I don't know how it works over there, but that is how it works here. If you
Is
do
school-
not if you do not finish school here,
Yeah.
then you are pretty fucked here.
So is school also a form of slavery?
Partially, yeah. I would
Okay.
say it's not exactly the same because you're not forcing labor on people.
Is being born a form of slavery?
No,
You didn't ask for it.
no,
You don't get
because
to do
that's-
what you want to do. Is the form of slavery?
because that's not labor.
Well,
Being,
you will at some
born
point. I
isn't
mean,
labor.
there's no way you can avoid it.
Yeah, but being born isn't labor.
I'm sure being born has in labor in it. Yeah, someone was in labor for you to be born.
Yes, someone else, not you.
Well, are they slaves then? Are your parents slaves to you?
No, because they consent.
Why not? They have
Because
to.
they
They don't have a
consented.
choice.
They do have a choice unless.
Oh, they
it's
do have a
country.
choice.
No, they do have a
Oh.
choice unless it's a country that doesn't have like abortion laws.
Okay, but let's say you were born for whatever reason. Are they then slaves to you?
Like just like, so yeah, if it was a country that did not allow women to have an abortion, yeah, I would say that's like kind of like it would be at least partially slavery when you're forcing someone into labor.
Sorry, let's say your parents made the choice to have children. Yeah, and then they say, you know what, this is too much hard work. It's not for me. Are they now slaves?
Well, they just wouldn't take care of you, so no.
Also,
they have the choice not to take care of you.
Well, actually, I don't agree, because then the government could put you in prison. So you are a slave, literally.
What do you mean put you in prison?
If you neglect your children, the government can put you in prison.
So no, we have abortion as well as we have like adoption. What you're saying is
you didn't go through those those avenues, and let's say the government says we don't have any parents right now to take your kids away, so and you decided to stop working for them, or working in quotation mark. So that means if you let's put it this way: if you stop working for your kids, if you neglect them, you'll be put in prison for child neglect. That is false, and now you're a slave to your children. If you neglect your kids or stop taking care of them to some degree, I'm not sure it doesn't have to be to a high degree, but to some degree, then then essentially it's even worse than looking for a job, because here you're a slave.
No, because
and it's not a 9 to 5. It's like all day, all week.
No, because you consented to it.
Sorry?
Because you consented to it.
You voluntarily agreed to have children? Is that what you're saying? And now you have an obligation?
Yes, unless you're in a country that doesn't have an abortion, that doesn't have abortions.
Forget the abortion for one second. I understood the angle of abortion, but let's say you had the children.
Consent to having children.
Yeah,
Therefore,
you can't withdraw the consent. Yeah.
Off.
Okay.
You cannot drop the consent. Yeah.
So you voluntarily agreed at one point, and that's it. You're committed. Yeah, you're a slave. But you said no, actually, because you consented to it, right? You voluntarily agreed.
It's not a slave because you consented to it. That is literally opposite of a slave.
Well, then I contend that you are contradicting what you said with regards to work. Then, if you're saying that parents aren't slaves, then why is work slaves?
No, because people who work aren't consenting to work.
Sorry? Yes, they are. They voluntarily agreed to work.
No, they do not.
What do you mean they're not consenting to work?
They do not have the ability to consent because that is their only option.
They don't have the ability. It's not
Okay,
their only.
so I'll give you an example. Let's say someone was in an example, like if they were having like about to have sex with someone, and that person like drew a knife on them, they wouldn't be able to say no because they would risk literally getting killed. You wouldn't say that person has an option there. They need to say yes, otherwise they'll die.
Right, but can I make a point?
Yeah, I'll just quickly finish. Same with
Yeah.
someone who is working; they are forced to work. They do not have consent there. They need to work, otherwise they will die. All right,
Okay, so your example with the knife wielding robber is that is a person, a human being, forcing you physically, endangering your body to do something, right?
Yeah.
You don't have a choice because, or let's say, let's for argument's sake, let's say you don't have a choice, and if you don't do what that person says, then they will injure you, and you'd rather not be injured, or perhaps fatally. Okay, so
yep.
But here, no one is holding a knife to your throat. No one is shackling
They
you.
can't. They can't.
They're in your imagination, wild imagination. They're not. They're
not
giving you the opportunity. They're literally.
Absolutely is real.
It would be like this, like the knife, the knife wielding robber had an option of 10 people.
Knife,
yeah.
Instead of a knife, it's literal starvation.
Well, let me give. I don't even know if I can give a comparable example, but here there's a person saying, "I need someone to help me in my business. I'm flooded with work. I'm willing to pay someone. I put the job in advertising. Who wants to work? You're completely voluntary. If you don't want to work, I'll find someone else. If you don't want to come, if you've had enough, I'll find someone. I'll try to find someone else. Completely your choice. I'm not holding a gun to your throat, gun to your neck, sorry, or gun to your head."
Yeah, I'm not saying the company is the one forcing the slavery. I'm saying the society that we have ends up forcing the slavery on people.
Okay, but I think that and Stone Shepherd is reminding me of the original proposition that the concept of wage slavery is wrong, and I said that it's not wage slavery, it's wage security. You're giving an option, you're getting an opportunity to work. It is the best option you have. If you have more than one, that's great. If you have only two, then that's your only one. It's either that or not working and trying something else to find ways of feeding yourself on your own abilities, your own merit. Either you versus nature, or you find some kind of way of providing other ways of finding value, giving value to other people in society in exchange for money. It's completely your choice. It's either you versus nature, or you participate in the organization we have today known as society and people interacting with other people. So the concept of slavery, I think, is hyperbolic and wrong, and I think we should rename it from wage slavery to wage security. Okay, Stone Shepherd, I'll hand it over to you.